Today we're going to talk about why there's no such thing as a perfect estate plan. And what I mean by a perfect estate plan is how it works out, or does it work the way you thought it would upon your passing? So Sherlock Holmes famously said there's no such thing as a perfect crime, and there's always going to be clues or hints, that you can't get away with it. And similarly, no matter how hard you try, it's impossible to have a perfect estate plan. So to demonstrate that, we're going to review an anonymous probate case study where even in an ideal planning scenario, and by ideal I mean you knew to the minute when the death would occur, so there's no sort of variance as to when will I die this year or 20 years from now. That's usually one of the big variables that you have trouble accounting for, and you've had plenty of time to plan ahead. So we're going to use this case study, and still there were lots of problems in probate. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
So our solo ager, Linda, she was terminally ill, sadly, but so she had a planned end of life. And this means she knew to the minute when she would be passing, and she had months in advance to plan for her eventual passing in probate. And here's how it all unfurled. And, unfortunately, she did her best. She did a great job in many ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is just how the world works, and we're sort of demonstrating. This is not sort of we're not criticizing her so much as saying that it's just acknowledging that it's really difficult to plan. I would even say impossible to plan a perfect estate plan. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so first, let's start with the positive and talk about how her estate plan did work, how it did play out the way she had hoped. The first thing is she did hire us as her professional executor, and that sort of is a sort of safety net which is you're hiring somebody who's experienced enough to catch any problems and fix them, because she did acknowledge that there was going to be problems. So that's good.
Yes.
As opposed to foisting this burden on a friend or family member who would be sort of floundering around a bit. She also did her pre-planned funeral arrangements, which executed smoothly. Perfect. Yeah. And that way she was able to get the exact sort of end of, treatment of her remains exactly as she wanted. She made sure to arrange for the care of her dog, which is great, instead of having that frantic, oh my goodness, there's a dog in the apartment, we need to get in there now.
Right.
And then lastly, she did a pretty good job of canceling all of her services. So I think her phone, electric, TV, Wi-Fi, everything shut off exactly when she wanted it to, and there was no lingering returning boxes or anything, which is useful. So she did those things very well.
Yeah, definitely. Yep, because that's usually one of the first couple of things that we have to do is determine those things, and yeah.
So unfortunately, some parts of her plan didn't quite work, and despite her attempts to plan for them, so we'll talk about those. So she did a good job of preparing a will, naming a professional executor, but she kept her original will in her apartment instead of storing it with an attorney or somewhere else, and that causes a couple of problems. When you keep possession of your original will, if it gets lost, it's presumed, legally assumed that you intentionally destroyed it, thereby revoking it. And the reason that's important is if you store it with an attorney or your CPA or a trusted advisor, and if they lose it, they shouldn't, but if they do, you can still use a photocopy or a PDF, because your attorney has no right to revoke your will. They just lost it.
Right.
And as long, there's some additional paperwork you have to. I know you shouldn't lose it, but
you shouldn't lose it if you're holding on to. But yeah, I guess.
But at least losing it doesn't invalidate the whole thing.
Correct. Doesn't negate everything that you put in there. Correct.
And secondly, having the original will in our apartment creates another layer of court process, because, who can enter a deceased person's apartment?
You need the letters of testament.
You need the court-appointed executor, and in
Right.
order to have an executor, you need to have the will. So yeah, there's a special. I mean, it's not the end of the world. There's a special proceeding where we can enter the apartment to retrieve or search for the will, but that's now a whole other thing, and we have to be accompanied by a police officer, and it's a whole thing.
Yes. Yep.
Which we're doing, but again, I would say she probably didn't want that, and that's probably her estate plan not working out as she had planned. No perfect.
Because As a reminder, when someone passes, they come in, they close down the house or the apartment so no one can get in until you have the letter. So you can't just waltz in and look for it. Doesn't work that way.
Exactly. Second area where her plan, she did her best to plan, but didn't quite work out the way she wanted, is she relied a bit heavily on her phone, which we all do, right? And what I mean by that is she had a lot of information on her phone, and she would reference that in her instructions to us, and she even gave us the PIN or passcode to her phone.
Yes.
So that was sort of a centralized point of failure, meaning we need this phone. It's very important that we get it.
Yes.
But the way things worked out, the phone is stuck overseas. And apparently, I'm learning this, you can't really mail a phone. Something about the battery creates a risk of shipping, or it'll most likely get dismantled by the customs agents or something like that.
Yeah, there's an extreme amount of red tape.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Surprising because everybody has cell phones. You'd think it's no.
I guess in the old days with the flip phones, you could remove the battery and send it and then just buy a new battery. But, with these new smartphones, the batteries are sort of built in.
Yeah. I don't even know where to find a battery inside of a phone.
Yeah. So we either have to arrange like a human being to carry the phone to the United States, or I need to fly out there, which is ridiculous. Yeah. That's a huge expense for the estate. And we'll figure it out. But
oh, absolutely. But
it's probably not what she had intended. Yeah.
No.
And then lastly, keys to her apartment. She intended to have them sent to us, but we have never received them. So things get lost in the mail. Maybe a different solution would have worked out better, but mailing them was not a great idea. So and that's not a big deal. The super, once we get appointed, we'll figure that out. But just showing little snafus here and there, yeah?
Right. That's just a couple more extra steps that I don't think she intended.
So then lastly, what are some of the problems that she did not expect at all? So despite her best efforts to plan, and again, she did a great job, but problems that sort of completely avoided her attention. So the big one is that she sort of assumed that her friends and heirs and family would work harmoniously with her selected executor, me. But no, that has not worked out, unfortunately, for various reasons. One, I think it's a family member, thinks there's some sort of fraud here, and it doesn't have to do with the fact that I'm a non-family executor, but rather the fact that she didn't tell anybody that she was going to do a planned end of life,
right?
And that's causing all sorts of distress. So that has not worked out perfectly, as well as another heir doesn't seem to be happy with how this is working out and has hired her own attorney. And it hasn't materialized yet in anything, but a lot of people sort of get nervous or uneasy with how with a state or any legal situation, and they feel they need to hire their own attorney. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
but
now there's another layer of
just
adding another cook to the kitchen. Let's put it that way.
Yes.
So I think her plan, because our decedent's plan was for everyone to work along, make sure to call this person, she'll tell you what to do, or call this friend and she'll give you the information you need. And none of that is happening.
No.
So, I don't think she expected that at all. Nobody can predict human behavior. So,
right. Especially in a time of grief and sadness. And you've added a whole new layer onto everyone trying to figure out what's going on. And,
absolutely.
I mean, we will work around all of this. Of course, that's what we do. Yeah. But it's interesting that she did try very hard and succeeded in quite a bit. And there's a couple little things.
Yeah. I mean, from a planning perspective, it was a quote unquote, best case scenario in that there was no time variable. And she could choose the date and plan. She had plenty of time to plan, but we're just using this as an illustration that even with those best case situations, you can't see all the problems. Nobody can.
Yes, there's no perfect estate plan, like you said. In general, though, to if you're thinking about your plan and you're trying to figure out, the best case, the best way to do this, pick up Anthony's book, How Probate Works, and then you're going to see how it works and the person that's going to have to administer this and what's going to go on. Available on Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel like the best way to approach planning is to understand, wait, how does this all unfurl at the end? Like what has to be done, or what am I planning for? So yeah.
Right. What's going to actually happen, and what does the person have to do when the time comes? Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Janice, as always. Thanks everyone for listening. Hope this one was helpful, and we will talk soon next time. Bye
Talk
now.
soon.